What's going on, Vikings fans? Happy Monday morning, and thank you guys for tuning into the show. But coming up on today's show, the Vikings over the weekend met with free agent quarterback Ryan Tannehill. So we'll break down that and give you guys my thoughts on why I actually do believe he would be a pretty good backup option for the Minnesota Vikings next season. Then also, the Vikes got disrespected yet again. So we'll dive into that. Stay tuned. You guys will get an absolute kick out of this. But before we do so, if you guys could help us reach 55,000 subscribers here on YouTube, we are at 54,830, and we just need 170 more of you guys to go down there, hit that subscribe button, lock us in. We are only, I think, actually today, a month away from the NFL draft. So we'll keep you guys updated with everything you need to know. But please help us out there. Go down, hit that subscribe button. All right, so this broke, I believe, Friday night. Jordan Schultz reported this, saying sources, the Vikings have had discussions with former Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill about a potential deal. Talks are ongoing, and nothing is imminent as of right now, sources tell NFL on Fox. Now, I think the Vikings are in an interesting spot with this backup quarterback position because there are not a lot of solid options out there right now, and Tannehill offers a interesting situation because considering he did not sign anywhere last football season. His last season in the NFL was back in 2023 where he had his worst year of his career, only completing 64% of his passes, had only 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So the raw numbers don't look too good, and only threw for 1,600 yards in 10 games where he started all 10 of those. But he still had a pretty solid season, more famously known for his time with the Titans when they had Derrick Henry. They were going on some solid playoff runs, winning some playoff games. Now, is he the same guy that he once was? Absolutely not. But here are how his playoff numbers shake out in 5 games in his NFL career. Completion percentage, 62.7. He's thrown for over 250 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions for him. But my opinion on Ryan Tannehill and him being the backup quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, I think it is about as perfect as you can get because, number one, he's not going to challenge J.J. McCarthy whatsoever. Like, it would be a clear, definite J.J. McCarthy is the starting quarterback, and we have already known that. But I also think Ryan could give J.J. just a great voice in his ear, a guy who has been on playoff runs, who has led teams who are run-first offenses back with Tennessee and Derrick Henry. He is just a great veteran to have in his ear. And also with the Vikings support system, Kevin O'Connell, if J.J. were to have to go down for a game or two or a month next season, I would be confident that Ryan Tannehill could at least just control the ship, and it wouldn't be a disaster where they're going 0-4 and we're like throwing out there like a Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall situation like we had a couple of years ago. I think he's still at this point in his career is a high-end backup. Now, why didn't he sign with the team last season? I think he still thought he could go get a starting job. That did not end up working out, and I'm assuming he's going to be more than okay with taking on that backup quarterback role. But in 2023, this was his last season of him playing, a good amount of football. Again, it was only 9 games started out of 10 games played total, but his big-time throw percentage was only at 4%. Turnover-worthy play percentage, whenever that's about even, not a good sign there. But adjusted completion percentage, 76.1. Average depth of target, 8.4. But this is awful. Pressure to sack ratio, or percentage, 30.2. That was one of the highest in the National Football League that season. But, a big reason why I'm high on Ryan Tannehill is just because the other options out there right now, there's just not a lot. Like, you got Joe Flacco. I think he would be a good option. I've been talking about him for, feels like a month now. Is why I think he would be probably number 1 for me in terms of a backup quarterback I want the Vikings to sign. But you also got a guy like Trey Lance, Drew Lock. Don't really have too much interest in these 3, including Carson Wentz, because, yes, the upside is there with, relatively with all 3 of these guys. But I just think the Vikes need a veteran in that room. So that's why if I had to power rank it, I would probably go Flacco 1, Tannehill 2, Case Keenum number 3. But, and I was just thinking about this morning, and the Vikings still have yet to sign a backup quarterback. I do not love Kwesi waiting until the last second to land a QB because just calling a spade here, J.J. McCarthy, even though I am massive and super high on him, he's coming off a torn meniscus. He'll be ready to go, but also with a quarterback, and especially his first year starting in the National Football League, I would like a premium backup at that spot. And I understand the comp pick side of things where the Vikings could wait from a month from now and sign a quarterback after. It doesn't affect their comp picks for next season. But I would rather sacrifice like that 3rd-round comp pick that you would get for Sam Darnold, just go get a premium backup. Because let's just say Flacco and Tannehill sign elsewhere. Like, are the Vikes just going to roll with Case Keenum as their backup quarterback? But what if he doesn't want to come or he goes somewhere else? Like, then are you just left with like a Carson Wentz, Drew Lock, which, I think those would be okay options. But it's just a little concerning that the Vikings have been waiting this long to go get a backup quarterback, considering what happened in 2023 when Kirk Cousins went down and they had no plan at the backup quarterback position. And that was a good football team that season, and it was necessarily just a waste of a year. And with how stacked this roster is heading into the 2025 season, I would have just preferred that the Vikings would have made a bigger push to get a higher-end backup like a Gardner Minshew or even like a guy like Jameis Winston who just signed a 2-year, $8 million deal. Like, I would have rather had the Vikings go that direction. But if you end up getting Flacco or Ryan Tannehill, I'm more than okay with that. But speaking of, if you guys want the Vikings to sign Ryan Tannehill, just give me a SKOL down below in the comment section. Hopefully this gets done soon. Again, they might wait till after the NFL draft, so we'll just have to wait and see. All right, coming up next on the show, it's that time of the offseason where the Minnesota Vikings are getting disrespected yet again. It is incredible. Every single offseason we talk about this, and these NFL media experts, they're not too high on the Minnesota Vikings. We'll share with you guys that here in a second. But first, if you guys do want to get QB1 JJ McCarthy's jersey, head over to chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. I got that link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show. But go get those number 9 jerseys. It's going to be a sweet one to wear in US Bank Stadium this year. And hopefully you can wear it for the next 10 to 15 seasons. So if you guys want to get them, chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Check them out today. All right, let's dive into it. The Vikings got disrespected yet again. So this was coming in from Fanduel, and they had all of their NFL media experts, analysts just give their way too early NFC power rankings. And if you guys see on the left side of the screen, working 1 through 8, the Vikings are not to be seen there. You got the Eagles at 1, Commanders, Lions, Rams. I am cool with the top 4. If you had the Vikings here at 5, I would really have no issues. But this is when the issues start. You have the Chicago Bears at 5. You got the Green Bay Packers at 6. The San Francisco 49ers at 7. The Bucs at 8. The Seahawks at 9. Then you got the Vikings all the way down there at 10. And we can start off with our own division rival here, the Chicago Bears. I have liked what the Bears have done this offseason. Like, I like what they did at the interior of their offensive line. I think Ben Johnson's going to work out. I don't think, like, the whole offseason champs thing is going to, result into 5 wins again from the Bears. I think they'll probably be around that 8 to 9 range, right around 500. And if Caleb has a really good year, I could see them winning 10 games. But are they on the same level as the Vikings in terms of roster? Absolutely not. Vikings got them beat, in my opinion, at, defensive line, offensive line. I think the secondary, even though the Bears got some, blue chippers over there, I just think with the combination of, like, Brian Flores and that secondary, I'd rather have than, like, even though the Bears have more talent, but, Dennis Allen calling the shots there. I think the coaching staff, Kevin O'Connell, Flores, is a huge advantage for Minnesota. But, yet again, the Bears, they're getting all the media love, and I'm just shocked that they're 5 spots ahead of the Vikings yet again. But also the Green Bay Packers here. I think the Packers are going to finish last in the NFC North. And listen, the argument I can make to them not finishing last in the North would just be Jordan Love taking a massive step. He could do that, definitely. I just don't think it's going to play out this season. I think they still have a need for a true wide receiver 1. The Aaron Banks signing was a little questionable to me. Their defense has always been a little overrated over the last couple of years, and I love Matt LaFleur. I think he's a great head coach in the league, but I still think him and Kevin O'Connell are about on that same level, and I would rather have, Brian Flores calling the shots than, Jeff Halfley over there. So I don't get the Packers' love, really. I think they had a poor offseason. I mean, their big wide receiver signing was, McCole Hardman, and they signed Aaron Banks, and I just really don't get the love. And also, a team like the San Francisco 49ers, now, they have a great culture. There is no doubt about that. Like, Kyle Shanahan is still a top 5 coach in the league. And, they still got some really, really good football players. Fred Warner, Bosa, like, they got some playmakers. But they have also let go of Deebo Samuel. Trent Williams getting a year older. You got the drama around the football team with the Brock Purdy contract. Now, do I think the Niners are going to go replicate the 6-win season they had last year? No. But again, I think they'll probably be floating around that 7 to 10 win range instead of them, I'm reading this. If you have them that much ahead of the Vikings, you probably got the Vikes winning 6 or 7 games. You got the Niners winning 9 or 10. And I think that's ludicrous. And then also the team where Sam Darnold went to. I understand, like, they had an upgrade at the quarterback position, in my opinion. Now, some people think it's a downgrade going from Geno to Darnold. I'm more of a Darnold guy than Geno. but they lost DK Metcalf. Now they have a lot of draft capital, but this is a young football team. And do you really believe in their coaching staff? Like, I think it's ludicrous that they had the Seahawks out of anybody ahead of the Vikings. But, I truly believe this is that there are some like Minnesota Vikings blinders out there. And I'm sure if you asked Fanduel and we asked them, like, hey, why'd you have the Vikings so low? They would just say, oh, it's because J.J. McCarthy. He's the biggest unknown. But I just wish we went back and looked at last offseason when people had the Vikings winning 4, 5, 6 games. I mean, there were people saying the Vikings had a better chance of picking number 1 than making the playoffs last season. But you consider this roster. You had huge upgrades at the interior and offensive and defensive line. And then also you're getting Christian Darrisaw back, one of the best left tackles in the league. Like what the Vikings were able to do last season with 14 wins when a shaky offensive line and a defense that probably had B-, B-level talent, but they played like an A group. But now this roster, like I truly believe, yes, I would still put the Eagles ahead of them. I would probably still put the Lions ahead of them. But besides that, in terms of just overall roster, I think you can make a good argument that the Vikings are third. And, I guess this is good news. The Vikings are flying up the NFC North odds. About a week ago, this was flipped with the Bears, where the Vikes were plus 425 and the Bears were plus 400, and they were last. So I guess DraftKings is starting to kind of turn their page on the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm not saying they should be ahead of the Lions. The Lions have owned the Vikings the last 3 seasons. I think they're 6-0 to be exact, but the Vikes have owned the Packers. We're a better football team than Green Bay, and I just still don't understand, just what other people are seeing that I'm not when it comes to this football team, because it's a great roster, great coaching staff, and you're just banking on a top 10 pick who I'm a big fan of playing good football. And even if JJ plays awful football this upcoming season, I still think the floor for this football team is 7 wins. But if JJ ends up popping, let's just say he's a top 7, top 8 guy, like the Vikings can make an argument you were right up there with the Commanders, with the Eagles, with the Lions. But I'll ask you guys. The Vikings are the blank best team in the NFC. Hopefully you guys don't say 10th, just like FanDuel did. But right now I'd probably put them at 4 or 5. I think that would be completely fair. You still give the Eagles, Lions, Commanders, and I think you could give the Rams that nod as well. And also I think the Rams have had a really, really good offseason as well. But the Bears, Packers, like Niners, Buccaneers, Seahawks being ahead of the Vikes, I just think it's a little ludicrous. But you guys let me know. Vikes are the blank best team in the NFC. And also hit me up on Twitter at Pat Sieps is the handle. See you guys next time. Let's go Vikes.